When we talk about philosophy, many think of ancient philosophy, wise men in white robes gathered in the square in Athens, or the era of 18th, 19th centuries, people in fancy costumes with glasses of champagne and French appetizers discussing humanism, the human soul. Compared to this, our era doesn't look much like the one when philosophy is flourishing.
Pretty girls walk like this.
Why are pyramids that shape? Is it to stop homeless people sleeping on them?
Is philosophy dead today? No, and perhaps it is today that we need it more than ever. Our daily life, our communication, our work today is very different from how it was in the past. Thus, we are faced with problems that humanity has never faced before. Let's dive a bit deeper. After World War II, there was a surge in production. Homes, cars, roads were being built like never before. The material standard of living was rising, and technological development had taken a significant leap. Shopping malls, credit cards, computers and smartphones came into being, as well as many other products. We live in an era of enormous quantities of goods.
We're consumers, Jim. Okay.
We are constantly around products, whether we're at home, in front of the TV, on the street, on the internet. We have to buy.
What do we say if somebody doesn't want to buy?
Buy my brownies or I'll kill you.
But why? In the 1970s, the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard wrote a book, The Consumer Society, Myths and Structures. For him, consumption is a psychological reaction. Baudrillard sees the key concept of the modern social order, happiness, as an absoluticized principle of consumer society. The consumer society endows happiness with quantitative characteristics measured through the attributes of social differentiation. The consumption of objects is no longer related to their essence, but rather to the alienated signs of objects that exist only in relation to one another. Baudrillard believes that the consumer society is a society of self-deception where neither authentic feeling nor culture is possible. Another feature of our era is cynicism. We no longer believe in ideological doctrines or high ideals.
It's not cynicism, it's realism.
The German philosopher Peter Sloterdijk, who in his book Critique of Cynical Reason analyzes the cynical syndrome with the example of Weimar Republic, considers cynicism as a failure of the Enlightenment, a kind of dead end. For him, life in the age of cynicism is life in a twin light, a sense of grey everyday life, a sense of being in the grip between stark realism and dreams of the impossible, a sense of presence and absence at the same time, a sense of cold indifference or fascination. People live from one day to the other, from vacation to vacation, from one newscast to the other, from problem to problem, in a stream of personal cataclysms and short-lived stories, in convulsive tension and at the same time sluggishness. All this brings us to the subject of ideology. The 20th century was an era of great ideological battle in which the superpowers and their allies were involved. Virtually, the entire world was divided into two halves. But that ideological battle is over, and with it, the era of ideologies has come to an end, hasn't it?
This is such a brutal irony.
And this is where Slavoj Žižek comes in, the provocative and controversial Slovenian philosopher.
I'm generally opposed to wisdom. I think wisdom is the most disgusting thing you can imagine.
Žižek explores ideology in the modern world with Lacanian psychoanalysis and a Hegelian Marxist approach. He argues that although we live in a post-ideological era, there is even more ideology in our lives today. Ideology is not only how we look at contemporary problems, but also how we formulate the problems themselves. The paradox is that we ourselves often fail to notice the presence of ideology in our lives.